Hello again and welcome back to SFF180. It is Monday morning, November the 22nd, and time once again for the mailbag. This week, of course, in the US is Thanksgiving week, and so I hope that all of you who are planning to celebrate the holiday have a very nice holiday and very safe holiday. And otherwise, it's a pretty good mailbag this time around. I have about 8 physical packages, which is a decent amount, and then I'm going to wrap that up with about half a dozen e-arcs. So I really don't have a whole lot of announcements except to say new review tomorrow. That's exciting. I am working on getting something up for Turkey Day, for the Turkey Day special, but we'll see. It's all kind of a timing thing, but I'm going to do my best. But then there will be some reviews also for next week. Which I guess will take us into the tail end of November, beginning of December, before the next mailbag. And in the beginning of December, don't forget, it's going to be time for my anticipated 2022 videos. Do those at the end of every year. They're usually pretty big. And this year, for the first time, in addition to most anticipated SF and most anticipated fantasy, you're going to get most anticipated horror for the first time. So I'm very happy to be doing that. So that's going to be maybe like early in December. But anyway, suffice it to say, lots of content happening on the channel coming up. Also, I have updated the homepage at long last. I tend to do this once every couple of months because I just forget because I'm working on other things. But I have updated the SFF180.com homepage with the links to the written review versions of some of my most recent reviews here from the channel, as well as one website exclusive review of a backlist title. Precisely the kind of book that the website is still up for. So go enjoy that if you like. Otherwise, without further ado, no real further announcements. Let's get on to the book, shall we? Okay, now this first one is interesting. It's from Watkins Media in London, which is unusual because I don't get too many physical mailings from overseas publishers because of the expense to send books over. So let's see what we have. Well, this was certainly unexpected. This is actually in from Angry Robot. Now, I usually get my Angry Robot physicals through a Random Penguin here in the States. But this is a print arc, actually. I've never actually gotten a print arc from Angry Robot. Angry Robot has me pre-approved on NetGalley, but this is the first physical arc that I have gotten from them. Interesting. Thank you. So this is for a book called Bluebird, and I'm going to try to pronounce the author's name properly. So its first name is C-I-E-L, Seal, Pierlot, P-I-E-R-L-O-T. And it is lesbian gunfighter, a gunslinger fights spies in space opera thriller. So as you see, lesbian gunslingers in space. This is turning into a whole genre into itself, is it not? Firefly meets The Heat in this fantastic female-led debut. Okay, so this could be one for people who might have enjoyed Persephone Station, for instance. Cool. Let's see. 3 factions vie for control of the galaxy. Rig, a gunslinging, thieving rebel with a cause, doesn't give a damn about them, and she hasn't looked back since abandoning her faction 3 years ago. That is, until her former faction sends her a message. Return what she stole from them, or they'll kill her twin sister. Rig embarks on a journey across the galaxy to save her sister, but for once she's not alone. She has help from her network of resistance contacts, her taser-wielding librarian girlfriend, and a mysterious bounty hunter. If Rig fails and her former faction finds what she stole from them, trillions of lives will be lost, including her sister's. But if she succeeds, she might just pull the whole damn faction system down around their ears. Either way, she's going to do it with panache and pizzazz, they say. Well, all right, well, then, okay, this sounds cute. Okay. It is Bluebird by Seal Pierlot. All right, and this is coming from Angry Robot on February the 8th. Now, moving ahead, it looks like we have some white envelopes from Macmillan. And this is the physical arc from Tor.com for the newest of the Wayward Children novellas from Seanan McGuire. This one is Where the Drowned Girls Go. It comes out on January the 4th, and I'm a bit behind on this series. I have read and reviewed the first 3 of them. I find this an interesting, if very uneven series. Like, I really didn't like the first one. I thought the second one was excellent. I thought the third one was pretty good. So it tends to be up and down qualitatively. But, you know, Seanan McGuire loves her long-running series. And, as I understand, this one is now in development for television. So, go Seanan. McGuire is a master of the compelling story and beautiful prose. When Eleanor West, here we go, decided to open her school, her sanctuary, her home for wayward children, she knew from the beginning that there would be children she couldn't save. When Cora decides she needs a different direction, a different fate, a different prophecy, Miss West reluctantly agrees to transfer her to the other school, where things are run very differently by Whitethorn, the headmaster. Cora is soon to learn that the Whitethorn Institute isn't as friendly as Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children, nor as safe. Not all doors are welcoming. Okay, and that is coming from Tor.com Publishing on January the 4th. Okay, this one is real exciting to have. This is a new anthology coming from Tor.com Publishing on March the 8th. It's called The Way Spring Arrives and Other Stories. The editors are Yu Chen and Regina Kanyu Wang. And it is not only an anthology of Chinese science fiction and fantasy in translation, but the authors here are all either female or non-binary. And so that's really kind of cool. It says, in The Way Spring Arrives and Other Stories, you can dine at a restaurant at the end of the universe, cultivate to immortality in the high mountains, watch roses perform Shakespeare, or arrive at the island of the gods on the backs of giant fish to ensure that the world can bloom. Written, edited, and translated by a female and non-binary team. These stories have never before been published in English and represent both the richly complicated past and the vivid future, of Chinese science fiction and fantasy. Time travel to a winter's day on the West Lake, explore the very boundaries of death itself, meet old gods and new heroes in this stunning new collection. And this is The Way Spring Arrives and Other Stories, coming on March the 8th. Now we're going to move ahead, I think, to some random penguin packages. I am absolutely overjoyed to have this. This is Noor, the new novel by African futurist Queen Nnedi Okorafor. I've actually gotten this one, of course, previously as an e-arc, but it's really great to have the physical edition here. It's not a particularly big book, so it should be one to knock out fairly quickly. But let's see. Daw doesn't usually put actual... No, they don't put cell sheets in the book, so I'm going to have to read the flap. It says, let's see, Anwuli Okwudi prefers to be called AO. To her, these initials have always stood for artificial organism. AO has never really felt natural, and that's putting it lightly. Her parents spent most of the days before she was born praying for her peaceful passing, because even in utero, she was wrong. But she lived. Then came the car accident years later that disabled her even further. Yet instead of viewing her strange body the way the world views it, as freakish, unnatural, even the work of the devil, AO embraces all that she is, a woman with a ton of major and necessary body augmentations, and then one day she goes to her local market and everything goes wrong. Once on the run, she meets a Fulani herdsman named DNA, and the race against time across the deserts of northern Nigeria begins. In a world where all things are streamed, everyone is watching, and the reckoning of the murderess and the terrorist, and the saga of the wicked woman and madman unfold. This fast-paced, relentless journey of tribe, destiny, body, and the wonderland of technology revels in the fact that the future sometimes isn't so predictable. Expect the unaccepted. All right, well, sounds like, it's pursuing similar storytelling ground as Remote Control. But, that was a really lovely story. And so I'm expecting good times from this one. This is Noor, new in hardcover from Daw. And next up, also from Daw, this one's really nice to have. This is the finished copy and trade paperback of Absinthe, a new, what looks to be a decopunk sort of science fiction by Brendan P. Bellacourt, which is a pseudonym for Bradley Ballou, who wrote the Saga of the Shattered Sands, 12 Kings and Sharakai, that series. This is a pseudonym for him. And also some bad news. Well, I mean, he's doing okay, but apparently Bradley recently was hospitalized. He had a stroke. He's recovering, but scary times. So I don't know. Maybe, pre-order his new book to cheer him up. That might be nice. But let's see what Absinthe is all about. Once again, I think this is one that I've gotten as an e-arc, but here we go. Inception meets Metropolis by way of the Great Gatsby in a decopunk tale of unchecked technology and the unforeseen costs of utopia. The Great War has been over for years and a brave new world forged. Technology has delivered the future promised at the turn of the century. Sentient robots aid humans, monorail trains flash between megacities, medicine is nothing short of magical. Liam grew up poor, but now, working for one of the richest families in Chicago, he reaps the benefits of his friendship with the family's son and heir. That's why he is at Club Artemis. It's a palace of Art Deco delights and debauchery, filled to bursting with the rich and beautiful, and tonight they're all drinking one thing: absinthe, the green liquor rumored to cause hallucinations, madness, even death. While the gilded youth sip the viridescent liquid, their brave new world is crumbling beneath its perfect surface. Their absinthe is no mere folly. Some it kills, others it transforms. But in Liam, something different has taken place. A veil has lifted, and he can see the world without its illusion. And it isn't the perfect world the government wants the people to believe. All right, then. That sounds nice and mysterious. And this is Absinthe from Brendan P. Bellicourt, a.k.a. Bradley Ballou. And it is coming from Daw, I believe, in early December. And this big chunk of a package is from Simon & Schuster. Okay, I knew this one was coming, but it's very nice to have it in the house at last. This is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. This is the second in what I think is a duology. The sequel to These Violent Delights. This came out on the 16th of this month. And it's another sort of decopunk fantasy, I believe a Shakespearean retelling. And it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, basically. But Chloe Gong, she published the first book. I think she was 23 when she sold it, and it became a huge bestseller because, being a Zoomer, she knows how to really work TikTok, right? And so this has become like a big book talk book. Series, as it were. But now the sequel is out, Our Violent Ends, and like I said, I think it's a duology. Here it is. And finally, for the physicals, this week I am saving the best for last, because I know what's in here. It is my single most anticipated book, either science fiction or fantasy, for all of 2022. And let's have a look, shall we? All right, everybody, here it is. Moon Witch, Spider King by Marlon James, the sequel to Black Leopard, Red Wolf. This is the second book in the Dark Star trilogy. And, for me, as you well know, Black Leopard, Red Wolf was just a revelation of a book. It was shocking and exhilarating and intense and difficult, very combative in its relationship to the reader, but so richly rewarding. It was just electric. It rewrote all the rules. It was mind expanding. And so now we have the sequel. And this comes out on February the 15th. It takes the story now from the point of view of Sogalon the Moon Witch, including her perspective on the search for a missing mysterious boy, as told in the first book. Written in gorgeous evocative prose and charged with the same page-turning intensity and psychological complexity as the first novel, Moon Witch Spider King shifts the narrative control to a woman who learns that truth is a matter of opinion and that to live life on her terms, she must risk everything. Because Dark Star is not a linear trilogy but three very different versions of the same story, there is no need to read them chronologically, so whether read before or after Black Leopard, Red Wolf, Moon Witch Spider King stands on its own as a dizzying, delirious adventure into an all-encompassing world. Emotionally poignant and hyper-violent, poetic and deliciously obscene, ancient and contemporary, supernatural and deeply human. All right, so as I said, February the 15th from Riverhead Press. I'm going to try to have my review of this up, by mid-January at the absolute latest, but I'm going to try to actually read this around the Christmas season. But first, I'm going to reread Black Leopard because I just really, really, really want to get re-immersed in this mind-blowing world and then move ahead. So thank you so much, Riverhead. The one thing I wish that they would just quit doing with that trilogy is calling it African Game of Thrones. Okay? It is not African Game of Frickin' Thrones. Okay? Can we just quit that? All right, thank you. Anyway, on to the E-arcs. I have half a dozen of them to show you this week. And we're starting out with another title coming out on February the 15th. So that looks like a really great day for epic fantasy. But this is Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham, who, as I'm sure most of you know, is one half of the writing team. James S.A. Corey, responsible for The Expanse. The Expanse is now ending, and Daniel Abraham is coming back with a brand new fantasy series. And I think now with The Expanse having become so big, hopefully people will now go and check out Daniel Abraham's work in fantasy, because he has done some, I think, very, very strong fantasy work. But in Age of Ash, it says, Kithamar is a center of trade and wealth, an ancient city with a long, bloody history where countless thousands live and their stories unfold. This is Alice's. When her brother is murdered, a petty thief from the slums of Long Hill sets out to discover who killed him and why. But the more she discovers about him, the more she learns about herself, and the truths she finds are more dangerous than knives. Swept up in an intrigue as deep as the roots of Kithamar, where the secrets of the lowest born can sometimes topple thrones, the story Alice chooses will have the power to change everything. And that is Age of Ash from Orbit, coming out February the 15th. Next, also from Orbit, on February the 22nd, the following week, another big epic fantasy. This is a debut. It's called The Justice of Kings. The author is Richard Swan. And it says, the first book in a fantasy trilogy where action, intrigue, and magic collide. The Justice of Kings introduces an unforgettable protagonist destined to become a fantasy icon, Sir Conrad von Volt. Sounds very serious. An Emperor's Justice, who is a detective, judge, and executioner all in one. But these are dangerous times to be a justice. The Empire of the Wolf simmers with unrest, rife with rebels, heretics, and powerful patricians who would challenge the power of the imperial throne. Only the Order of Justices stands in the way of chaos. Sir Conrad von Volt is the most feared justice of all, upholding the law by way of his sharp mind, arcane powers, and skill as a swordsman. In this he is aided by Helena Sedanka, his clerk and protege, orphaned by the wars that forged the Empire. When the pair investigate the murder of a provincial aristocrat, they unearth a conspiracy that stretches to the very top of imperial society. As the stakes rise and become ever more personal, von Volt must make a choice. Will he abandon the laws he swore to uphold in order to protect the Empire? Well, I guess we'll all find out on February the 22nd, but that is The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan from Orbit. And also, on February the 22nd, here's something very different. This is a new horror novel from the folks at Torn Nightfire. And I gotta admit, this one looks to me like an absolute riot, like a blast. It's called Manhunt. The author is Gretchen Felker Martin, and it is essentially about these three trans characters who are attempting to survive in this post-apocalyptic hellscape. It says, Beth and Fran spend their days traveling the ravaged New England coast, hunting feral men and harvesting their organs in a gruesome effort to ensure they'll never face the same fate. Robbie lives by his gun and one hard-learned motto, other people aren't safe. After a brutal accident entwines the three of them, this found family of survivors must navigate murderous turfs, a sociopathic billionaire bunker brat, and awkward relationship dynamics, all while outrunning packs of feral men and their own demons. Okay, I just think it sounds like a hoot. And this is the kind of book, obviously by the description, gonna make certain types of people very uncomfortable, to which I say, lighten up, learn how to have a sense of humor about yourself. It's all just a story, and I think it's going to be fun. Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin. All right, moving ahead, something very different in tone. This is from Tor.com Publishing on March the 1st. It's a lovely looking book called All the Horses of Iceland. The author is Sarah Tolmie. A hypnotic historical fantasy with gorgeous and unusual literary prose from the captivating author of The Fourth Island. Everyone knows of the horses of Iceland, wild and small and free, but few have heard their story. Sarah Tolmie's All the Horses of Iceland weaves their mystical origin into a saga for the modern age. Filled with the magic and darkened whispers of a people on the cusp of major cultural change, All the Horses of Iceland tells the tale of a Norse trader, his travels through Central Asia, and the ghostly magic that followed him home to the land of fire, stone, and ice. His search for riches will take him from Helmgard through Khazaria to the steppes of Mongolia, where he will barter for horses and return with much, much more. All the Horses of Iceland is a delve into the secret imagined history of Iceland's unusual horses, brought to life by an expert storyteller. All right, and that will be available from Tor.com on March the 1st. And also on March the 1st, back to the realm of horror and Tor Nightfire with Sundial. This is the new book by Katrina Ward. Now, this is, of course, the author of The Last House on Needless Street, which, as you know, I rather strongly disliked. But here's the thing. Just because I might dislike one book by an author does not turn me off to the author. All right? If it did, I never would have had this ongoing SFF reviewing career for 20 years, right? You know, you might like one book by an author and dislike another. It's just how it goes. So, yes, I am interested in checking out Sundial. This one says, all Rob wanted was a normal life. She almost got it too, a husband, 2 kids, a nice house in the suburbs, far from her childhood home, Sundial, hidden deep in the wild Mojave Desert. But beneath the veneer, Rob is terrified for her oldest daughter, Callie, who collects tiny bones and whispers to imaginary friends. Rob sees a darkness in Callie, one that reminds her too much of the family she left behind. Running from her past has led her directly back to it. What's buried at Sundial could never stay a secret forever, and Rob must risk one last trip out there to protect her family and her future. And that is Sundial by Katrina Ward from Tor Nightfire on March the 1st. And finally, for this week's e-arcs, I give you The Bone Orchard. This is coming in from Tor on March the 22nd. The author is Sarah A. Mueller. And it says, this book is a fascinating whodunit, set in a lush Gothic world of secrets and magic, where a dying emperor charges his favorite concubine with solving his own murder and preventing the culprit, which undoubtedly is one of his 3 terrible sons, from taking control of an empire. Charm is a witch, and she is alone, the last of a line of conquered necromantic workers, now confined within the yard of regrown bone trees at Orchard House, and the secrets of their marrow. Charm is a prisoner and a survivor. Charm tends the trees and their clattering fruit for the sake of her children, painstakingly grown and regrown with its fruit, shame, justice, desire, pride, and pain. Charm is a whore and a madam. The wealthy and powerful of Borengard come to her house to buy time with the girls who aren't real. Except on Tuesdays, which is when the emperor himself lays claim to his mistress, Charm herself. But now, Charm is also the only person who can keep an empire together, as the emperor summons her to his deathbed and charges her with choosing which of his awful, faithless sons will carry on the empire, by discovering which one is responsible for his own murder. And that is The Bone Orchard by Sarah Mueller on March the 22nd from Tor Books. And there you have it. You guys know the drill. Light up the comments. Let me know which of these looks most interesting and exciting to you, and which you would like to see me prioritize for review. Otherwise, if you enjoyed watching, please hit the like button, share the video far and wide with your SFF reading friends, and above all, please sub. If you have not done so, that's how the channel grows. We are inching towards 10,000, so let's turn those inches into feet, shall we? You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, or recruits into Wink's Army occasionally will get little perks like early access to some of my videos, at least the ones that I finish editing early enough. So I do want to thank all those lovely people for their added support, because I use the Patreon money to pay Matt Olson, who is my amazingly gifted and talented channel artist, for all of the beautiful thumbnails and animations and things like that that he does for me. So thanks so much for helping to defray that. I also want to thank all the rest of you guys for being the very best viewers in all of BookTube, and until I see all of you next time, again, I hope you have a lovely holiday week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and happy reading.